Hey everyone, it's Melody with Design by Melody here for the Sonshine Stamp Company design team. I am actually creating a layout today with this Sail-u-tations stamp set. I'm just giving you a quick glance at this. It is nautical themed. I think there are 5 different stamps here, and you can see them. This is just a better look at it. Now, I am on the Sonshine Stamp Company blog today as well, so make sure you go check out their blog. I'll leave a link in the description box below, but make sure you go check out their blog to see some more information about how this layout came together, but also to check out all the other design team members as well. I had some nautical themed paper, and then I'm just going to pull out a wood grain out of this Jen Hatfield. What is this called? This would be the Jen Hatfield Homemade DIY Home paper pad. And I just like the basic wood grain background, and I thought it would be a really good background to use. It's not too incredibly busy, but you can actually really see what's going on the background. Now, this is a fairly simple layout, but it's mostly simple because I really wanted to highlight the stamping on the background, and I'm going to do some stitching. So when I saw this stamp set, there are the waves that are under the text that said Sail-u-tations. It's actually part of that same stamp. And I really was inspired by these waves. It really made me think about our beach trip last year. So October of 2015, we went on a trip to the beach, and I think I've talked about this before on my channel. But we went on a trip to the beach, and we actually went at probably the worst possible time ever. We went during a hurricane, well, not only just hurricane season, but we went then when there was a projected hurricane to be there. We knew it was coming, but we figured we had this beach house. It was about 2 blocks from the coastline, and we figured if all else fails, we'll just go and we'll stay inside and play games or something like that. So we went, and we had a ball. Like, we had so much fun, but I think it's because it wasn't really just your traditional beach trip. So needless to say, when we were actually walking along the beach, and it wasn't terrible weather the entire time. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't like pouring the entire time. We would still go walk on the beach and stuff like that. When we were down there by the beach, the waves were crazy because of the hurricane that was coming in. So the waves on this stamp set really made me think about those waves. And so I decided to go ahead and draw my own waves. I'm not going to do any crazy wave sketching here because I'm not that talented. And I hit my camera. Sorry about that. I decided to go ahead and sketch out some waves here and go ahead and stitch those. I'm just using some white thread, just some basic thread here, to stitch those waves out. Now I'm going to show you just a little bit of it, and then I'm going to skip ahead because there's no way I can do this on camera because I keep picking up the layout and you can't see it. And that would also be incredibly boring to watch. But the very first thing I did was sketch out the waves. Then I used my paper piercer to just punch the holes, and I've just put like a foam piece underneath of it so it's easier to punch the holes. And then I erase my pencil marks, and then I do my stitching. Now, I had drawn out about 6 different lines, but I decided after 3 lines of stitching it would look better if I just kept it with a 3. I felt like it was going to be too busy if I had all 6 lines of stitching. Then once that was all done, I'm back, as you can see, and I have there's like 6 8x8 sheets in this little paper pack that I got from Me and My Big Ideas. It's travel themed, but they're all nautical themed papers pretty much. I decided to do some stamping using these papers and just fussy cutting out around those stamps. So I stamped the ship. The background paper is not so bold that it looks distracting. I really actually kind of like the coloring that it adds without being too bold, I guess you could say. Just fussy cutting out that ship. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with the lighthouse here in a moment. I'm using this pattern paper that kind of has a blue and green color scheme to it, and I felt like the white lines on it made it look like rain, and that's exactly what we saw on this beach trip, was a ton of rain. Now make sure you go check out my still shots on the blog post, because you're going to be able to see that stitching a lot better than you can here on the video. My studio lights are really bright, so sometimes it kind of washes out the color a bit, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to see the stitching. In person you can really see the stitching, and it really adds a lot to the background. Now my stitching is not perfect by any means, but I really like the texture and the and just the interest that it gives to this layout. As I mentioned, this is going to stay relatively simple. I just really liked the waves from that stamp set, and you're going to see me use that here in a moment. And then I really like the stamping on these pattern papers. I felt like that was a really good way to mix the stamping in with using different pattern papers. And it also keeps me from having to like color in or anything like that. I don't do that very often. I don't color in my stamps very often, but I do sometimes, and sometimes it's really cool. I really like this stamp set in particular because the stamps are very detailed, and so they would be perfect for coloring in. Whether you're using watercolors or colored pencils, you could really do a lot with this particular stamp set. There's also like a flower stamp, so you could probably use just the flower stamp alone to create an interesting background if you wanted to. There are a lot of stamp sets from the shop that are real versatile that you can use in a bunch of different ways. That's definitely one thing that the stamp shop really does really well. So I highly recommend you go check out the stamp shop, see what's available. There are a lot of different things. There are planner stamps. There are just general scrapbooking stamps like this. You can use these stamps on cards. You can do a lot. You can do Bible journaling with these stamps. You can do a lot with these stamps. What I'm doing is, because of that stitching, I needed to lift my photo up a bit, otherwise it was going to be very uneven on that background. So I'm just using a bit of chipboard that I actually have. This is just some old packaging from some chipboard stickers, and I'm going to put it right behind my photo. Now I needed to make sure I had enough space to add my little ship on it later. And I did a boo-boo. I did not wait for my glue to dry before I flipped it over. But it's okay. I just stuck it right back down. I'm using a Project Life card down here at the bottom to add my journaling, and that's also where I'm going to add that lighthouse. And I'm just going to add my journaling. It takes me a minute to figure out what I want to write because I wasn't sure what part of the story I wanted to tell. But I eventually just talk about how we were going during a hurricane, when a hurricane was coming, and it just made for a very interesting beach trip. These stickers are actually from that same little collection where those papers are from, and so they're the same colors, which makes it really nice. It makes it very easy to just add these stickers. They coordinate very well. And again, the stamps are just perfect on top of these very subtle pattern papers. I really like the fact that they are actually nautical themed, and I'm using some nautical stamps. Now, you don't have to do that, of course, but I just really kind of like the themed piece of that. Just adding another bit of chipboard behind that stamp image. That way it sits at the same level as the rest of the photo. So here's where I decided to go ahead and take that stamp that has that wave pattern on it and stamp it at the bottom. That's actually what inspired this entire layout, so it seems fitting that I have it on my layout at some point. I had thought originally about taking this stamped image of the waves, stamping it out and stitching along that, and I'm kind of glad I didn't because I feel like that would have been too busy across the middle of the page. I like the subtle wave pattern and then just a few little stamped places with this very detailed wave pattern from the stamp set. I'm going to create a small cluster up here at the top of the page, and I am going to add another stamped part of that wave stamp as well. You can see the background of my paper. It's not so pretty when I'm done stitching because I just use washi to adhere to secure all my threads on the back, so it's not very pretty, but it gets the job done, and I really like the end result of this. So I actually probably could have stopped right there because I was pleased with how it was looking, but sometimes I am sometimes a minimalist, and it can make a page look unfinished in my eye when I look at it later. So I always try to go, when I think I might be somewhat done, I try to just add one or two more things because I never regret that later, especially since I am a bit of a minimalist when I'm doing my layouts. I never feel like it's too busy later on. So I always try to add just one or two more things. Just adding a few little stickers here and there, and then I'm going to actually pull out some sequins. My title here is Adventure, and then I decided to add this other little sticker that says Incredible, so it's going to say Incredible Adventure. And then I decided just to pull out a few sequins here to add to this layout and then add a border along the edge. I felt like it was slightly unfinished, and I think a border around the edge really kind of helps contain the whole layout and finish it off. Now, as I mentioned, this stamp set is what inspired this entire layout, and I'm really glad that I was able to find some photos that would work with it. The wave pattern just was so pretty on that stamp, and even though it was actually part of another stamp, it wasn't even intended to be just a wave pattern on its own. It was part of a stamp with some text on it, but it really, just the wave pattern just caught my attention, and it really inspired this entire layout. So I challenge you to go find a stamp set or go buy one from the shop, of course. I will make sure that I have those links down the bottom of the description box below. The stamps from the shop are incredibly well made. They're really awesome quality, and I really highly recommend any of you guys to go check that out, because, or all of you guys, not any of you, but all of you guys to go check it out, because she's got some really cool designs. And then not only that, but the stamps are really well made, and having products or tools like that in your stash are really important because they will last for a really long time. But I challenge you to go either purchase a stamp set from the stamp shop or pull out one that you have already or something, and look beyond just the original intent for the stamps of just stamping, and get a little bit of inspiration from those stamps. Definitely use them, of course, because that's why we have them, but get a little bit of inspiration and do something different with them. And that's my challenge for you guys today. I hope you enjoy this. Make sure you go check out the blog over at the stamp shop, and I will make sure I link it all below. Thanks, guys. Bye.